to the fight talk. Have we just seen the fight of the year so far? Now, as always, I'm joined by Kenny. Kenny, what did you make of the show the weekend?
Yeah, man, thought it was really good. It looked aesthetically, I thought it looked pretty good, especially when it got a bit darker as well. The fights. As you know, I missed the first fight because I was watching the FA Cup final, which I was delighted about. Delighted to miss the first fight. But I saw the rest, and overall, I thought it would be good, and it was good. You know, you obviously had no crowds there and everything, but the fights didn't really let me down. So yeah, man, it's I would say I'd give it a thumbs up all round.
Yeah, I think on the whole, the whole week with the content online and the old Eddie Hearn blunder, I think it was all a success.
Yeah, I got to worry about how much money were spent on those changing rooms, though.
yeah, they certainly went to town on it.
Yeah, which of course they needed to do, right? Obviously that's not tenable for very long, but you know, but they had to do it. Otherwise, they had every chance of looking like the Warren stuff on BT, right? If they just went to a studio worth, it would have just, I don't know, it just wouldn't have been the same. Just wouldn't have been the same. I think it would have. The fighters as well probably felt a bit more encouraged, doing this kind of, having all that effort put in to get that event going, and obviously they were knowing the money that was spent on it, that they kind of had to go out there and perform, right? Because you know, and Eddie Hearn put a lot into that. He'd done a lot of promoting with it, so I think it maybe put a bit of pressure on the fighters to make sure that they performed, you know, rather than just walking them into a studio and saying, right, this is on just for the sake of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the fighters enjoyed it from what I've seen with the whole thing in the hotel. But I shouldn't imagine if you're making weight or tight on the weight, seeing your opponent there, I'm sure there could be a few potentially bust-ups behind the scene for Coogan to film for us.
Yeah, but I think I saw an interview with Eddie Hearn where he did concede that he was going to have to, going forward, I think he was going to have to try and do something with keeping fighters away from one another. Whether anything happened on that we don't know about there, or whether he's just kind of coming to realize that you know, that you might have some. I'm thinking straight away about Dillian White, right?
Yes.
And the guy doesn't need much to get him going, so. No. But yeah, but I mean, how was I missed the Jordan Gill fight. I have to say, I haven't had a chance to rewatch it because I had to go into work yesterday, and then I've been at work today. So
yeah. So I think, as we spoke about in the preview, it went pretty much how we expected. Reece Bellotti was looking for the big punches, for the big shots, and Jordan Gill, he was just on the back foot picking him off, and he won on the cards by 97 to 93 twice, and then 96 to 95. So 7 rounds out of the 10 2 cards.
Yeah. Okay. So I chimed in at the Smith Bennett fight.
Yes.
Which I actually thought was, I thought it was I say competitive. It was a pretty good fight up until the knockout, and it was a good knockout as well, right? So we got, was it the 5th or 6th? I think it was the 5th.
Yeah, the
He was
fifth.
knocked
Yeah,
down. So we got 5 fairly competitive rounds. I mean, it was obvious Smith was the better fighter, but and Bennett kept, like, he kept getting, I could tell by watching it was going to be a straight right hand that knocked him out, because he kept getting hit by it from Smith. But Smith, you can tell, has got a bit about him. He's a good boxer. He was getting in and out. He wasn't, because Bennett bigger than him.
yeah.
And he was getting in and out. And then I don't know, the knockout punch, I don't know if it was just where he was hit, or maybe it was just an accumulation of punches, or he didn't see it coming, because it didn't look like that hard a punch.
No, I think it was where he got hit behind the ear, which did scramble the fighters. So I think that's what it was.
Yeah, because it knocked him out properly. I mean, like, he
Yeah.
was not getting up. Well, not completely unconscious, but he was, he couldn't get up from
No, I don't know why the referee started to do the count, because I think it was pretty evident when he hit the ground that he wasn't going to get back up in the count of
that.
10. Yeah. So the
Yeah,
next fight
so
on the card, we had Wardley and Lily. What did you make of that?
yeah, I was say, with the heavier weights, it's kind of always weird watching when you've got much lower weights. The guys are much quicker,
Yeah.
and then bang, in comes a heavyweight fight, and it kind of looks a bit slower, and you're thinking, oh my god, I wish this was quick enough. But so you've got to take that into account. But it was fairly kind of cagey, and then Wardley was obviously just waiting, and waiting for Valili to make a mistake, and then he caught him with a left hook and obviously rocked him, and then just finished him straight off. I would have liked to have seen that gone on a bit longer, but as
Yeah.
I say, you can't have everything, can you? But yeah, I was impressed. Impressed with Wardley, how he was. He was obviously wasn't trying to rush in and get things done. He was just kind of taking his time, and although it wasn't all that exciting, it was a good finish. So onwards and upwards for him. We'll have to see how. Have to keep an eye on him, see how he gets on.
Yeah. So we picked up the English title in that fight. It's going to be, as you say, interesting to see how far he can go, because he does seem on the small side for heavyweights, and I don't think that he's going to uh, fight for a world title or challenge for one. I think maybe someone like him v. Sherry Fury or Dave Allen will be a decent fight.
Yeah, yeah. At least it's someone that's fought at a higher level, at least, right? Because I mean, you always want to be stepping up, stepping up, stepping up. I was obviously not going from English title to world title, but you always
Yeah,
always want to be moving up your opposition just so you can kind of gauge where you are. But who's the British champion just now? That's not Sal Dubois, is it?
I believe so. Yes.
Yeah, so it is. Okay. Okay, so he's not going to get to fight Dubois anytime soon, because, well, I mean, if he was to beat Joyce, I don't know. I don't know where he's going to go from there. I don't know how long he'll have it. He might end up having to fight Dubois, actually.
Yeah,
If he obviously if he carries on.
yeah, that'd be a decent fight. But
But
but I think possibly the Commonwealth title for him, he can target next, and then see where he
yeah.
goes on from there.
Well, I imagine the British title will probably. I mean, if Dubois keeps winning, I reckon the British title will be vacant not too distant future, because Frankie Boyle will have wangled Dubois into the mandatory position with the WBO, despite probably not having deserved it.
Yeah, I'm surprised he hasn't got the WBO European belt already.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, well, interested to see how Wardley gets on going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Who else we had on the card after that? I think it was Tennyson and Gwynn, wasn't it?
It was, yeah, good fight. I
Yeah,
actually thought it was a good fight. They were there's a lot of punches being thrown at each other, and Gavin Gwynn was game. And I think I was texting you at the time, and I was saying that this isn't gonna go the distance, because they were, I think that they were throwing too many punches at each other, and obviously Tennyson's known for being powerful, but Gavin Gwynn was doing okay, and then obviously his face started to bust up, and then he just got overpowered in the end. I think ref had to step in.
Yeah, I think initially I thought it was perhaps a bit of an early stoppage, but looking back on it since, I think it was at the right time, and it was only going to go one way, as you say.
Yeah, and this is the thing about, I mean, especially the Tennyson and the Smith fights. I said I didn't see the Gill fight, but they weren't, because Eddie Hearn was building them up as 50-50s and everything. They weren't as 50-50 as he made out to be. But the good thing was the both fighters in those fights were game, right?
Yeah.
They were both throwing punches. It wasn't horrifically one-sided or anything. You know, you could obviously tell as the fight was going on, you know, who the better boxer was and who was probably going to win. But it was, you know, it wasn't. None of these fighters had it all their own way.
No, and I would say maybe apart from Dalton Smith, they was all fairly well matched fights as well.
Yeah.
So then we had the big one, the egg and the cheese. Call it what you will. As I said at the start, was it fight of the year? Yes, there's not a big pool to choose from, but we all thought it would be a good fight, and it certainly lived up to the hype, didn't it?
Yeah, great fight. I thought Sam Eggington was caught in the second, and I think Cheeseman could have maybe had him out of there if he'd just gone for it a bit more. But I think Eggington, I thought I actually gave Eggington the first round, and in the second round, I think the reason he got caught is because he was just becoming too overconfident, and he was not keeping his hands up, and and then he got caught, it rocked him, and then when Cheeseman boxed in that fight, he was winning the rounds, right?
Yeah.
And then later on in the fight, when he started to tire, he was just leaning forward on Sam Eggington, right? And Eggington, I thought, won a lot of the last part of that fight, because I don't know whether it it looked like Cheeseman was just tiring, but he was just kind of leaning into him and taking, keeping his hands up, but he was taking punches, and then Cheeseman would throw punches back every now and then, but he was falling into this thing that he does, which saw him lose to Sergio Garcia, where he was just walking forward, right, and just taking punches. And it was quite, I was looking at this thinking, well, if he carries on like this, Eggington's going to win every round. And then luckily enough for Cheeseman, I mean, he had, whether he'd got his breath back or he'd realized of a couple of the last few rounds, he decided to go back to boxing again. And he may have nicked a round or two there, which I think took him over the line.
Yeah. And initially watching it live, I thought the scoring was a bit harsh because I thought Eggington done enough the last 7-8 rounds to peg it back and possibly get it in his favour.
Yeah, well, I said to you at the time, I said I texted you and said it was a draw, but as I say, I think I'd have to watch it back again, but I always think, well, when I saw the scores, I always think, well, A, have I had too much to drink because I'd had a few beers during the football and that carried on into boxing. And then B, was I thinking because I picked Sam Eggington to win, was it maybe wishful thinking that I'd given him more rounds than I had? It's always you can never tell how you're. I mean, I didn't necessarily want Sam Eggington to win. I was totally neutral on this fight,
Yeah,
because I'm not. I don't want to say I'm not a fan of either of them, but I'm not a fan of either of them, right? I'm kind of indifferent to the. I don't prefer one over the other.
yeah, yeah.
So
It's the
I
same
was,
for me.
so I thought maybe a draw, and it was maybe something to do with, because I was saying, you were saying, the commentators were saying, we'd like to see this again, like to see this. So there was maybe
Yeah,
a little bit of wishful thinking there. I don't know, but I certainly can't complain with Howard Foster's 115 to 114. I think 116, 113 was a bit wide.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I definitely think the 115, 114 score was a fair representation of the fight.
Yeah,
116, 113 wasn't, and I think the reason why I did pick Cheeseman was just going into it, looking at Eggington's recent fights and his recent performances. I thought maybe he sort of had one more too many, and that would have caught up to him in this fight. But
yeah,
personally, I think he boxed the best he has done for quite a while.
yeah. Yeah, so I just worry about Cheeseman when he does this leaning forward, walking forward, not boxing thing to his opponent. He does it and he loses rounds by doing it. I don't know. He does come in, he does punch, but he spends a large portion of his time taking punches. And
Yeah,
every time you look at Cheeseman's face after every fight he has, it's always busted up, man. I think he takes far more punches than he needs to, and I don't know how long he's going to be able to do that.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think, as I mentioned before in the preview show, sort of when you listen to him talk, he does like begin to slur his words, and I think maybe he needs
Yeah,
to watch that a bit.
yeah. Um, it's kind of a bit worrying, but yeah. So hopefully, I don't know. As I say, when it, when he was boxing in that fight, I think he was winning the rounds, and I think
Mm.
if he could, but as I say, maybe it's just a mechanism of what happens to him when he tries to tire. When he gets tired, he just you know rather than move around and jump around, bob and weave, he just decides to put his hands up and try and take a bit of a breather by getting in close, so that but it's I don't think it's not very good for him. But
Yes.
as for Sam Eggington, I don't know what he does now. I saw him say uh, after the fight that things never seem to go his way. I mean, I don't know
Yeah.
if that's true. He I don't think there'd be many people give him that fight. Best that they would give him a draw. I don't see many people complaining with the result in the end. But
Yeah, and for I think it was what his sixth loss maybe. Um, for a guy that has had that many defeats, he's still quite in a good position.
yeah,
I guess he'll push for the rematch now. But where do you think Eggington will go for the Fitzgerald rematch? Maybe.
he may do. But as Fitzgerald, what's he done recently?
Well, I think
You know,
he's gone off the rails a bit, really.
or has
Um,
he?
yeah, yeah, because there's a whole thing on social media that he done. I don't know if it was drink or drugs or whatever, but
Actually, I did hear about. Did he do an interview or something quite recently?
um,
Well, maybe not quite recently, but a
yeah,
few months ago. Did I not see an interview with him?
yeah, he did do something. Yeah.
And I don't. Okay, so hold on. Let me just look up when it's. Do
Oh,
you remember his
I,
last fight was
I
in?
think, I
Okay.
think he called
So his
out
last
Darren
fight was
Till.
Cheeseman.
Yeah, I think what he'd done, I think he called out Darren Till, the UFC fighter, for over something, and it wasn't him.
Okay, so. Well,
But
I
yeah,
mean, if he is, because I mean, he'd beaten Fowler and he'd beaten Cheeseman, so I thought he would have been stepping up. But just saying, if he's been having a rough time of it, then he hasn't fought since October last year.
yeah,
That's going to be if he fights, it's going to be almost a year out of the ring. So he probably does need to fight someone like a Sam Eggington to give him a test to see if he's still where he needs to be at, right?
yeah. Because from memory, I don't think he was very disciplined with the weight and whatnot. And I know the original plan was for him to fight Anthony Fowler again, but I guess that's right out the window at this moment.
Yeah. Well, I actually I watched both the Anthony Fowler and Ted Cheeseman's fights, and I thought he definitely beat Anthony Fowler. I think he beat Ted Cheeseman as well, but because I remember there was a bit of controversy around the Anthony Fowler fight, and did he not knock Fowler down in the last round?
Yes, yeah,
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 and I think I just kind of just put him over the edge, didn't it? Because yeah, I remember that because Fowler, look on Fowler's face was just, I've just lost this fight in the last round.
yeah,
Obviously, he got
right.
up and it was a decision.
I think that made him have to sell a few more bottles of ECB Duo after that loss.
Yeah.
Yeah, but definitely some interesting fights with that for hopefully we see. And in terms of Eggington, I think he needs to shoot not easy fights, but a couple of fights just to get back winning again, and then
Yeah.
maybe we'll see the rematch.
Yeah. The only problem with it is how many opportunities are you going to get to fight now with how many shows are they going to be able to put on, because especially now with that, I think the latest advice going around was that the government had stopped. What they think they'd stopped? They were due to start relaxing things even further in terms of gathering crowds and stuff, to the point where you might be able to start having crowds, or small crowds obviously in places, but I think they've halted that at the moment, haven't they?
Yeah, they had some pilots due to take place the weekend. I think it was a few thousand at the horse racing, and yeah, they scrapped all that.
Well, I mean, unless Eddie Hearn's just going to leave all that stuff in his back garden indefinitely and just have shows there all the time, then at least if it's there, they shouldn't have to pay all the money to get it built again.
Yeah, yeah.
So
I don't know if you saw the interview he done, but I know definitely in the summer months he wants to make it an annual thing, the whole fight camp.
okay. Well,
So
I mean, if they get crowds back, I'm not sure they'll need to do that, but unless you can get some stadia built around
yeah,
make it like a small hall kind of show.
yeah, yeah. I did find it quite find it a bit amusing that his dad wasn't allowed to be outside of the house.
Oh, was he not?
No, I think the British Boxing Board have capped ages and things and like medical history and
Oh,
whatnot.
Jesus. Well, I suppose, yeah. But yeah, everyone there was tested, so, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Okay.
I don't think the Sky guys was, because I saw an interview on IFL with Eddie and Coogan, and he was sort of explaining the zones and whatnot. And I think Macklin Smith and a few others, they couldn't interact with because they've not been tested.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I'm a bit. I'm a bit conservative in the way than I like. I don't like too much regulation, so
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
it's taking it a bit too far. But there you go. That's just me.
yeah. I know it divides opinions, Sky commentary, but what did you think of it the weekend?
Yeah, I mean, Adam Smith's brilliant, right? I love the guy. I think he's a brilliant commentator.
Yeah,
But I obviously Matthew Macklin. I mean, I don't think he did too badly this weekend, but I've got nothing against the guy. I don't know him, right? This is just two guys bullshitting on YouTube. But I think they could do better.
yeah, yeah,
I think I'd much prefer. I obviously Paulie Malignaggi is probably not going to get in for a camp in Eddie's back garden, but I'd much rather see someone like that on. I actually think he's a pretty good commentator.
yeah. I agree. I do as well. It's funny you mention him actually because he's just been sacked from Showtime, hasn't he?
Oh, has he? Was he?
Yeah,
Is this just a legacy of the Deontay Wilder thing?
partly, but he done an interview on IFL at the start of lockdown, and they touched base on the whole Black Lives Matter movement and whatnot. And
Oh, okay.
he basically said that he doesn't really think racism exists anywhere. And of course, the way the world works nowadays, Showtime have I think it came out the other day, but yeah, he's been dismissed and he's not renewing his contract.
So I take it was a non-contract renewal rather than, because if he's been fired, then I think he would have a pretty good case for a lawsuit, especially in America, right?
Yeah, I'll I'll send you the thing after if you want to read it because I think it's on the boxing scene. But I can't remember if his contract's not been renewed or if he's been dismissed on Showtime. It's one of the two.
Yeah, I would think it's probably because if you don't want to renew someone's contract, you could just say you don't want to renew someone's contract. But when if you've got to be very careful, especially in America, what you're doing when you fire people, right?
Yeah,
Because it's his opinion on whatever it was he said. Now, I obviously can't comment too much because I haven't read. But if it's basically just him just giving an opinion on something that's in the news and the media and in the world right now, then you can really sack people for their opinions. I don't care how unpopular they are. Yeah, unless your opinion is inciting something like a hate crime or something, unless you're calling people to violence or doing something that's very well documented against the company policy, then yeah, I'm afraid. Well, I'll have a read of it and see, but I'd worry for Showtime if he if he
yeah,
gave an opinion on something like that and they fired him because of it. But what I will say for Paulie Malignaggi, having commented and said that things, if he has said what you said, is that
yeah,
he's going to struggle to get on Sky. That's for
yeah,
sure.
yeah. I've just googled it to check what has done, and they're working on a severance agreement. So it does sound like that he maybe was sacked rather than the contract.
Well, I'd say it might, if there's it might have been a mutual thing. They might have just said, look, okay, your opinion's your opinion. We don't like it. We don't want it on here. We can't fire you, but you're not going to be very popular. It might be a case of you can continue working, but you probably get a crap load of stick for it. And then Malignaggi's maybe looked at it and thought, yeah, it's probably best I don't sound good, or
Yeah,
or or something like that, right?
yeah, and it will be interesting. I presume he will, but if he does appear on IFL TV again, depending on how things are with him after, if he has been sacked, effectively his interview on there led to leaving him getting the sack.
Okay, was it an interview on IFL that he did?
Yeah, it's still on there now.
Okay, I'll need to go and have a watch of it. But I'm surprised they published it. But
Yeah,
there you
yeah,
go.
because So overall, I thought it was a good show for them to come back with, and
Yeah.
it lived up to the hype.
Yeah. I mean, Eddie Hearn went pretty hard hyping it up, and he is. You can say what you like about Eddie Hearn, but he has got a way of making things sound like they're going to be good, even though sometimes they're not.
Yeah,
But that's what he's there for. That's why he is, in my opinion, the best promoter going around, right?
yeah.
And I loved, I loved. So, do you think there's obviously the swear gaff that he had on the Sky Sports? There's a lot of people are saying that was set up. Now, regardless of whether you think it was set up or not, right? I thought it was hilarious, right? And
Yes.
and anybody that doesn't think it was hilarious, I'm sorry, then me and you we just wouldn't get on very well. If you cannot look at that, obviously see it. If you watch that and feel the need to write into something saying you're offended, then sorry, man, you need to go and do something else, or go and watch programs, and not watch anything after 8 p.m. at night or something, or don't go on the internet, or just don't do anything.
Yeah, for me, what made it more funnier was his face. I don't know if you've seen the frozen still image of it, but the face when he realised that they were live on Sky, it was hilarious.
Well, I'm surprised I didn't see him apologise for it, right? Because usually Sky are usually like, oh my god, we're really sorry, we're really sorry. But I didn't hear any apologies for it.
No.
I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if one of those complaints was from older Frankie boy.
I probably he'll be like, yeah. Can't believe people swearing on TV and everything.
Yeah.
We'll be expecting. He'll have something to say on the show. How it was, something negative to say, surely. However, I can't believe how much money it cost them to put that on. How much money would they have made and everything? It's just shut up, mate.
Yeah.
So yeah, I look forward to seeing that.
Yeah, because he isn't allowed in the BT studios, I don't think, because the shows he's been on via Skype or FaceTime or whatever they had. But they had an interview with him on the show Friday night, and it was just atrocious. Some of the spill he was coming out with.
Oh, was he having a go? Was he having a dig at Matchroom?
No, not well. I suppose it can be interpreted as a dig, but he was saying how his shows you got the proper boxing back, and we build guys' careers. We don't just poach them from other people. It was all along them lines.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, you don't know what to say to that, right? It's part and parcel of the game, right? It's just playing the game.
Yeah.
It's a case of don't hate the player, hate the game, right?
Yeah.
And as much as I hate that saying, I'm going to use it.
Yeah. So yeah, as we said, it was a solid night for boxing, and it probably has had the fight of the year on, and we look forward to the second week now.